Righto. Welcome everybody. I'll declare the Service Delivery Committee meeting open. Welcome the Mayor and fellow councillors, staff and the press and any public that are here. We've got one apology, Councillor Rollinson. All in favour that that apology be received, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Any extraordinary business? Any conflicts of interest? 4.1, confirmation of minutes held on the 21st of March. Any change to page 1, page 2 or page 3? If not, somebody like to move those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Price. Seconded, Councillor Malcolm. It was a close shave. Any further comments? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary. Carried. At this stage, I'd just like to say I thought the address at some of our service delivery meetings was slipping, so I thought I'd upgrade things for you to set an example. Service Delivery Committee emergency meeting held on the 28th of March. Any change to the first page, which is page 4 or page 5? If not, would somebody like to move? Thank you, Councillor Price. Seconded, Councillor Lovett. Any comments? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Activity reports. Somebody like to move? We received activity reports. Councillor Brown, seconded.
Just one small question out of the 2 minutes we just passed. We've got a trial going, the traffic trial with the lights. Is there a time known when it is finished? That's something I couldn't find anywhere.
Through the chair, no, we have not been told what time frame, but we'll certainly keep it on in our minds and try and get something definite for you so we can present it back to council with some findings.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I didn't see it in the upcoming agenda, but in regards to the committee that was formed in item 4.2, the emergency meeting, any update on when the first meeting is? That committee was formed over a month ago now.
The latest information I have on that is that we haven't received all nominations from the various parties in there. I have been reminded to submit, I think there are 3 outstanding at this stage. As soon as we get the list, then we will convene a meeting.
I believe the nominations were supposed to close on the 29th or 30th.
Earlier this week, that's right, yes.
So I hope they contact those. Councillor Price.
So I just wonder if you could give us a little bit more detail on that. And in the agenda, it talks about 2 organisations, so obviously there's more than that have since joined.
Maybe it is 2, sorry, maybe I got that wrong. I know ECAN is one of them, I'm not sure who the other one is.
At this stage, we're just passing the minutes. If you want to bring up something, you bring it up at a further meeting. And on the agenda for extraordinary, yes. Well, somebody like to move at this stage, activity reports be received. Councillor Urquhart, seconded Councillor Bowell. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. 5.1, library. Jill's not here, so no. The service delivery manager will fill in. That's correct.
Yes, Jill's away, so if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
I think they had the usual school holidays program. No questions?
If I can just add, there is mention of 51 visitor information inquiries in March. We are averaging typically around the 50 to 60 per month. So if you're interested in knowing how that compares with the previous months. So it's the average figure is about 50 to 60 per month.
Councillor Brown.
What sort of information is given to the people who are asking? Is it just a pamphlet or is it more detailed than that?
I can't answer that. It could be a variety of things, maps, or just information pointing them in the right direction, or advice. Yeah.
Councillor Lovett?
I was just going to add to that too. Would it be prudent for us to find out what these people are actually asking for, so when it comes in our new build, we can actually provide what the majority of people are wanting, whether it's pamphlets or information or telephone services or what?
I can certainly get that information from the staff,
We need
and
to
share that
log
with
it.
you. Yep.
Thank you. We probably need to log it, yeah.
Councillor Reveley?
They can have, there's the opportunity to refer them to the F&I site who has a full list of things that is available, so I presume that's happening.
It is, yes.
5.2, Ashburton Museum. Welcome, Tanya. Yes, everybody that hasn't seen that glass plate negative project, you want to have a look. It's really amazing what you've recovered, absolutely amazing. You like to add any comments to your report?
I do. I have an exciting announcement. So every year Museums Aotearoa have museum awards, and I received the media release today which says finalists have been selected for the New Zealand Museum Awards 2019. Judging this year was especially hard with so many high quality entries to choose from. The new most innovative education program category was inundated with entries, indicating that our museums and galleries see the huge importance and benefit of good quality education programs. And of course that's us. We were finalists in this award. They go on to say education is one of the core purposes of art galleries and museums, so we felt that a category that recognises innovation in this area was essential to give recognition to the great work being done in education right across the sector. And the awards are going to be presented at Te Papa on Wednesday the 22nd of May. And I thought you'd be interested to know who we're up against. We don't know, obviously, the whole cohort, but the 4 finalists are us, Motat, Otago Museum and Rotorua Museum. And even just Rotorua, which would be the next smallest one, has more staff in the education section than we have in total. So, very pleased about that.
Yes, congratulations. It's
Thank you.
real for you and the museum, I think.
Look, I think it's been a big team effort. They've worked really, really hard to deliver the right kinds of programs for schools, but also for kids and families. And and I think 2 of them worked particularly hard on this, so it was great. It was the Suffrage 125 program that some of you will have seen. I think the Mayor attended the opening, and it was the one where there was a petition, was one of the projects that the children did within it, and that was tabled at Parliament by Andrew Falloon and is going to select committee in the next couple of months, I think. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Tanya. Tanya, can I just echo those sentiments? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not only a source of great pride for you, your staff, but also for the community, because many members of the community are very supportive. So I just also am aware of another event that you've got coming up this month, and my understanding is that you are one of just 4 locations in New Zealand. Is that correct?
3, actually.
3. Would you like to share?
So we're about to open an exhibition. So this was part of that being using that, the development of the Mooney Family Room, and so we've been able to bring in an exhibition that's coming from the Japan Foundation, and that's connected to the Consular Office of Japan as well, and it's about the history of martial arts, and so I think there's quite a lot of people here very, very interested in that subject. It's called The Spirit of Budo, and I think you've probably all had invitations by now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, oh, look at that. So I hope you get a chance to see it and come in for the opening.
Councillor McMillan?
Thank you, and congratulations as well. But I just wanted to comment, it was really nice to see Max up at the Mount Hutt College Diversity Night, and he had a lot of information about the glass plate and negative project as well. But it was great to see him and interacting with lots of students and newcomers as well. So
Yeah, and it was Max who, of course, really led that education program as well. Yeah, very lucky to have him.
Councillor Urquhart.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Tanya, yeah, congratulations. That's great. That's really great. I'm just probably a bit old-fashioned or something, but a Franken puppet.
Oh, if you come along, we'll show you how to make one. This is another one of Max's ideas. It's using the photographs from that collection, and you kind of cut them up and rejoin them up. It's a little bit like Monty Python. No? Some people, I'm too young for Monty Python, obviously, but I'm told.
Thank you. No further comments. Thank you, Tanya. EA Network Centre.
We've got Richard here.
Richard. Welcome. Anything to add to your report?
Yeah, just a couple of notes from Steve and the rest of the management team. Through the chair, we just wanted to offer our thanks to the Mayor for attending both the triathlon and the gumboot throwing event. It was very well received and lovely to see you down there taking part. And the only other thing that didn't hit our activity report was we're about to roll out a adult learn to swim program. We'll be kicking off Monday. And it's been quite well received as well, which kind of sits in line with where council's going in terms of water safety.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification, I took part in the gumboot throwing, not in the triathlon. My role in the triathlon was purely to meet and greet the children at the end, but it was another wonderful, successful event. This is the third year I've been in attendance, and I think it's all of the ones that you've held. The children thoroughly enjoy it, and it's great participation. But one thing I was curious about in the report is pickleball. Firstly, to know whether Ashburton took out the trophy or took out the win on the night against the Gore District Council, but also to understand what pickleball is.
Through the chair, there's actually someone in the room who's probably better placed than me to explain pickleball. Ruben was actually Ruben, communications manager, who brought it to our attention. Pickleball is, he's probably going to tell me off for this, but a cross between tennis and badminton. It's tennis played on a badminton court. And our focus for pickleball will be kind of a winter option for those tennis players who can't get out and about due to the weather. So obviously we can utilise the stadium to make that work. So far we've had quite a lot of interest. 12 people turned up on our trial night, and we're aiming to have a regular, we're looking at Sunday evening competition or hit around. Yeah, it's a smaller form of tennis played on a badminton court, low net. Don't ask me where the name came from, but yeah. In terms of the night, it was more of a friendly night, but certainly a good battle between Ashburton and Gore went on.
Councillor Braham. I
have the same question.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. I'm intrigued in the comment in the third sentence. Interest remains high from many other parties wishing to utilise the stadium. Have you seen any downturn due to the increased fees of the stadium?
Through the chair, no downturn at this point. Bookings continue to track high, even going past the 1 July point at which the fees will increase. There have been significant comments around what would happen again next year should the revenue and financing policy continue and that fee increase again. But at this point, we're not into bookings for that point. So, yeah, no, bookings continue to track high right through July, August, September, and no doubt we'll start getting October shortly.
No further comment. Thanks, Richard. Open spaces. Welcome, David. Have you got anything to add to your report?
Well, I guess I can add that we had a very successful planting day down at Wakanui Beach on Tuesday with about 50 children from Wakanui School, and we planted over 300 plants. was a lovely day, beautiful, no wind, it was tremendous. So obviously that'll be reported in the next report, service delivery report.
Councillor Price.
If I could just add to that, that it was quite significant as well because it was the first time a commercial interest has taken part. The plants were donated through World Traveller retail shop. And I think we'd like to encourage more of that. Certainly brings buy-in from different parts of the community.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I see the cemetery is well on the way to completion. When are you anticipating that the first burial plot may actually be used in there? And is there going to be some significance around the first burial in the new area, or is it just going to be business as usual, shall we say?
I'm not too sure how to answer that. Oh, absolutely, yes. There's still a few plots that we'd like to fill in the old part of the cemetery, and I would like to fill that before we actually move to the other. And so at this stage, I really haven't got a time frame set up, but I think that, yeah, we should be doing something significant for the opening of the cemetery. It's basically almost completed. There's a few odds and ends that need doing. I think the path's still got to be gravelled and there's stuff to take away. And there's landscaping to be done. That will be done in the winter time. But the basics of it, the construction, is just about complete, yes.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, through you to David. David, over the summer we had quite a wet season before Christmas, and the grass was growing, and we had a few comments back from the community, and you and your team got on top of it. Thank you very much. You did a great job at tidying up around Anzac Day, but the one area that just still seems to be a wee bit lacking is some of the street gardens, and in particular I'm thinking Chalmers Avenue. And I've driven down there lately and I know there are roadworks, but I'm wondering, just in regards to the timing around the street gardens, when do you hope to be caught up on those?
Yep, and I agree with you, and there's some that haven't been planted, and you know the reason for that. And we'll be starting planting of those and tidying those other ones up in the next 10 days, couple of weeks. The staff are busy doing all the annual plantings because all the plants are ready to be planted out, so that's what they're concentrating on. As soon as that's done, they'll be out tidying all the road berms and doing all the planting in those empty berms.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand ADC, the open space, was involved in the planting of the garden in our local mosque. Is that going to be an ongoing, or is that a one-off support for the Muslim community in Ashburton?
No, that was just a one-off to assist. We actually mowed the lawns for them and then tidied the area up for the open day, and it was just a gesture from us to the Islam community.
If you turn to page 16, 17, while David's here, if we do the minutes of the Lake Camp Clearwater, if we did it later, David would be gone. So, is there any comment from councillors? Councillor Lovett.
I actually went for a drive up there the other weekend, and I must say the around Lake Camp and that, it's looking really great with all those new tracks and pruning up all the trees for people to camp under. It's actually looking really, really good. There was only one comment we sat over at Lake Clearwater there, and the people there were concerned about the trees that are going to go, you know, how far they were going to take them out. Whether, you know, why hadn't they planted trees before you take out the ones that are there? On windy days it can get quite blustery in there, and I think there was a bit of concern where the camping ground is that hedge, those trees behind that going, or were they staying? They just needed some certainty around that.
Yes, I'm not too sure the exact program. Terry O'Neill, the forester, and Mr. Bert Hoffman, and the hut holders up at Clearwater are working on it and on how they're dealing with it. So there's quite a bit of consultation between the groups, so hopefully it'll all work out well. Just to add to that, it was a very successful working bee up there. I think about the 14th of April, if I remember rightly. It was prior to a weekend before Easter, and there was about between 12, 15 people. They cleared quite an area with the wilding pines. A lot of them were the hut holder people, so it's working quite well with the council and the hut holders.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. And just to add to that question about tree removal, the trees that have been removed are contorta pines, which are on ECAN's list of pest species. The rest of them are going to stay there, and there is a plan, because DOC have now quite happy for us to plant on the edge of their property as well. There will be a plan to plant succession plants in there before any more are taken out.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. The domain development plan, where's that sitting at the moment? Are we...
Well, it's all ready to go. Maybe Mr. McCann can explain there.
Yeah, it was originally due to come to this meeting, but we decided to just hold it off just to nut through some final details with the property department and looking at options and costing of other options that didn't directly relate to open spaces. So we'll get those firmed up before we present it at the next Service Delivery Committee meeting.
Right, if we all finished with the Lake Clamp Landscape Working Group, we'll... No. We move back to page 7. 10 on the tablet, is it? No further questions? Stock water, 5.5.1. I've got a question, Mr. Askin. How are we going with the auditing of our water races? What are closed? Have been notified those that are got water that haven't been paying and haven't been notified? How are we getting on with an audit to where we actually stand?
Yes, we've got a whole list of places to go. We're getting through that list. One particular area is just about completely done. The other one is still a bit of work to do, but it's hopefully to be done all by the end of June.
Yeah, that's good. So people with the new rates bill don't get billed, or do get billed if they've got water race on.
Exactly, yes.
Any questions? Stock water? Echo somebody's comment. I hope the Surface Water Strategy Group gets into gear as soon as possible. Those that haven't replied, hopefully we've told them to chase them up. Yep, thank you. Thanks, David. Solid Waste, welcome, Craig. And Shamal. Neil will introduce our new engineer.
Councillors, if I can just introduce you to Shamal Ram. He's our new Projects and Operations Manager. Shamal comes to us from Auckland, having worked with Watercare and previously with GHD Consultants in Christchurch and in Brisbane, and before that with Metro Water in Auckland. So it's his first week this week. First day on the job was on Monday, so he's just settling in, but I thought I'd introduce you to him now.
Welcome, Shamal. You've got big boots to fill with Viv, so we hope you enjoy your stay in Ashburton. I believe you brought your family with you, so or going to. $5.61 projects, or anything you'd like to add, Craig?
Going? Oh, yeah. No, nothing specifically other than everything's gone, all our programmed works up at the park have gone really, really well this year. We've got a good season and getting our builds completed, so yeah, it's been good.
Only question I've got, I was past the Rekaya toilets on Monday, and once more it was overflowing all down the footpath. It seems to be a daily thing, that was at 9 o'clock in the morning. What time do they usually service those?
Yeah, through the chair, we normally require 3 times a week, on a Monday morning, and then Wednesday, and then late on a Friday, sometimes on a Saturday. We are finding though, and especially through this Easter, and we increased the servicing, and we've got bigger bins there now, and it's just that place is getting so busy. It's incredible. Every time they went to service, the bins were full and overflowing. I think the best thing for us to do is to find a way to actually service the site, particularly the salmon site, more often. Not particularly keen on adding even more bins because they just end up getting misused. And I know that the Open Spaces team are currently going through a process where they're looking at, the options around building a new toilet, and perhaps, I don't know if it's possible, if we can incorporate into that toilet a service room where we could store some wheelie bins and things like that, and then we wouldn't have to bring a truck out from town every time. We could actually have whoever's cleaning the toilet swap bins in and out for us, and then we service all the bins when we do normally go out. So there are some options that we're looking at. I still need to talk to Dave Askin and his team about those kind of ideas, but it's kind of where we're thinking at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you. Last time you were here, you were talking about the new recycling area at the Resource Recovery Park. Is that now up and running?
Yeah, that is open, and people are still getting used to which way to come in and how to use the area, but we've had some really great feedback. We've got one last piece of work to do this year, and that is to relocate the reuse shop. So as you've seen in the report, we've currently got a couple of shipping containers that are down actually at Ashburton College, and they're going to be painted up by the students as part of their arts program. And when we get those back, we'll put them in what was the public recycling area, and then we've got a smart shelter to go over the top, and in that area we'll set up a new reuse shop. When that's done, we're going to do a fly around with the drone again, and at a future meeting we'll bring that material for you to look at so you can see the work that we've done, and also we will organise like an open day and run a bit of a barbecue, use the new recycling event trailer and stuff, and just sort of promote the use of the site and what we've done. So far, what we've done has been received really well, and it's made a big difference. Yes.
Councillor Lovett.
I was just wondering, sort of been sitting out there at Rekaya and observing what's going on out there, the camper vans, the camper vans that are coming in and they're filling their rubbish into those rubbish bins there. Would it help having a sign there with a camper van sort of on, directing them people to the Resource Recovery Park for their rubbish, because it's not too far away from there? Just saying they can, instead of using those bins, take it.
Yeah, if we, I mean, that is a possibility if the site at Rekaya was open all the time, but we're only open 16 hours a week. So that kind of means we'd have to set up a drop-off point at the gate, and it's kind of there's no real gain at doing that at this stage. Certainly, the village gets busier and we end up extending the hours or whatever, then we can revisit those kind of ideas. Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and I just want to thank the officers that attended the Hackatree River Trail meeting. There were a couple of issues happening along the trail, and by just having that communication with the officers turning up to the meeting, that seems to have been resolved, and there does seem to be a way forward, and there are many, many, many users of that trail, and it's good to see everyone working together to achieve that outcome. So just thank you for attending, Greg.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Through the chair, we had a presentation from the Youth Council the other day, and they showed us photos of the skate jam and of your new recycling trailer. Has it been used since then, and what are you looking at using it? What kind of events, etc.?
Yeah, as you're aware, we're becoming more and more involved with community events and providing, rubbish and recycling services to those events. It's really good for us. It helps us promote our services and things like that. So we were using the contractors' equipment to move all those bins and things around. So that's why we decided to build our own trailer and build it bespoke so that it fitted our needs, and we could utilise it alongside our educator, so educator could use it. It will be a council-wide resource, so any other departments that want to use it can, book it and use it. And yeah, it went really, really well at the skate park. So
We're just circulating the photos of the trailer for those people who haven't seen it.
Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Mr Chairman. The solar-powered compactor require, and as a trial, and there's no one at Methven too, is it? No, East Street, Ashburn. How are they different to a normal rubbish bin? What are they? What's the advantages?
Okay, so they're essentially like a little closet cabinet thing with a little wheelie bin inside, 120 litre wheelie bin inside, and then inside it is like a compactor press piston that pushes the rubbish down and squashes it down. It's solar powered. It's also connected to a network so that it's constantly feeding data up to the cloud, if you like, and then we can access that and we can see how full it is, and when it's full it tells us and all that sort of stuff. And it's been amazing that, since we put the one at Require in just before Easter and it takes 17 times the volume of litter than a standard bin does because it squashes it all down. So when it comes out, it's really heavy. And even that bin was overflowing, plus the two auxiliary bins that we put out for long weekends. So, but they're really quite pleased with how they've been working.
If you've compacted the stuff in, how easy is it to get it out?
Well, when the litter bin truck comes, it's got a bin lifter on it, and so that bin lifter gives it a shake and it just falls out. And the bins are tapered, so once you've dislodged it, it just falls out.
Must be getting close to the 25k though, shouldn't it? There's a maximum we're allowed to put in each bin.
The maximum in the big 240 recycling bins is 30 kilos. So I'm not sure exactly what the weight of a stuffed 120 bin is, but it would be getting up there. Yeah.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. And on the same subject, the one on East Street, I haven't seen it. Where is it located?
Right by the main toilets in town, where the info centre is. So there's a recycling station there.
Yep.
Yeah, just by the chessboard.
And supplementary to that, does this fit in with the town centre plan that's being developed, or will it have to be relocated at some point? Because the town centre plan is still obviously in the works, so I don't know what the requirements of that plan are, but if the plan requires that we have to bring in new bins, well then we'll relocate those bins into the other communities where we've got old bins. So our current litter bin renewal program has been designed around that we know we've got old bins in Hinds and Mayfield and Mount Somers and some of the smaller communities that are looking pretty shabby. So when the town centre plan comes in, if there's a particular unique style of bin or whatever that they bring in, well then we'll take those bins out and put them out there, and then we'll have good bins right throughout the district.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mr Chair, to Craig. Craig, we just seem to have a bit of inconsistency happening around this issue though, because when we had the last town centre meeting, we were presented with a style of bin that they're intending to bring in, and the vision from the consultants is those bins will go out to the wider district. So I'm not sure where the vision is, but we just seem to have two viewpoints being presented at this table.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I'm not sure where that came from the CBD, because they are focusing on the CBD area. I'm not aware of us looking beyond that with the new style that they're considering.
I can tell you where it came from. It came from the consultant who at the meeting said, here's our vision for the CBD. We think to have a style right across the district would be a good long-term vision. Yeah.
It certainly hasn't been briefed by the staff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was unaware of that. I haven't had any involvement in that process.
Okay. But equally, I have another question, please, and this is in regards to the rural recycling sites, the satellite sites. And I read in one of our local papers that there was a lot of mud in recent time, and I'm just wondering if you could help me understand what the problem was and what the solution has been.
Okay, so that's the Pendava site, and it's always been a metalled yard, and it potholes and gets wet and pretty yucky in winter, as it has been. So we came to an arrangement with the roading team, because as part of their resealing and pavement program, that we asked if we could include that yard as part of the work they're doing in the area, and they said, yeah, that's no problem. So as part of that work, the yard was prepared and compacted, ready for sealing. Only they haven't got there to seal it at that point that article went through. I don't know if it's been done in the last week or so, but that was the reason that the bins were put off to the side. But since then, those bins have been picked up and moved just up the road a little bit, past the fire station, and they're on hard ground again. And as soon as that yard is sealed, and then the bins and everything will go back where they belong.
Nothing further. Thank you, Craig and Shamal. Water capital projects. Welcome, Andy. Anything to add to 573? Or anything in your report? Other.
Yeah, through the chair, just I suppose a bit of an update in the drinking water section. We did, of course, have a couple of boiled water notices which aren't reflected in this report. All of those schemes or the two schemes that were reflected, have both been lifted, so we're back to normal.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to ask a question about the boil water notices. So I know there were two, Mount Somers and Methven Springfield. I know it's been communicated through Facebook. How is the Antino app still working with that? I just had a question from a ratepayer who was on the Methven Springfield, that she didn't know if it had come off, and was usually got information through Antino, and this time she found it really hard to find that information. I just wonder if there's a better way to kind of communicate that.
In answer to your question, through the chair, I don't know whether this was activated through Antino or not. I was actually on leave while this was happening, so I simply can't answer that question, but we can find out and give you some information back on that.
Councillor Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, please, if you can help me with that. I'm quite relieved we've got sewers, but what is an Ashburton relief sewer? What is it, a spare one, or is it something? What exactly is that?
The Ashburton relief sewer has actually been on our program for many years. It is the name of a sewer that starts at the corner of Creek Road and Thomas Street, I think, and goes all the way down to the Trevor's Road grit chamber. So when it was constructed in the 60s, I believe, it was called the Ashburton Relief Sewer. It was meant to solve a whole lot of problems. Unfortunately, the method of construction wasn't as good as it should have been, and it's actually been the bane of our existence for some time. So progressively, we've been looking at fixing some of the capacity issues that have been caused by the state of that sewer. And the relief sewer project, the new one, will do that. It will basically take the load off the one that's causing us the problem.
Yes, I've got a question, 5.91. Is that because of subdivision, or who is actually paying for that? Subdividers usually pay, or what's the situation with this one?
Yeah, so the Northwest Servicing Project was something that we brought to Council as part of the LTP development. I think it was actually in the previous LTP, and it's made its way into this one. The proposal here is that we've got an area of land that's zoned residential C, so we're obligated to provide at least some the base infrastructure, if you will. And that's what this project will give us. It will give us a network pump station and 2 or 3 principal trunk mains. And then as the area is developed, developers will be required to provide additional gravity sewers as they need to. So it's certainly not all of the servicing, but it provides the foundation infrastructure to allow that development to proceed. it's currently funded through development contributions.
Councillor Ellis?
Councillor Brown was before me.
Was he? Righto.
For quite a while, thank you. Just supplementary to the question I had, and then we addressed it somewhere else. So the Ashburton Relief Sewer is just one of the main lines. Is that correct? Thank you.
Through the chair, yeah, correct.
And just to clarify, that picks up the Ellington area largely? Yeah.
Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Chair. The Ashburton River crossing, the tender documents are going out, so have all the, or the objectives that we had with that project, is that all sort of been resolved now and we're just moving forward now with tender documents and works? There's no more objections we have to work through to do that project?
Through the chair, if by objections you mean the difficulties we're having with our consent, yes, the consents are all in place. Yeah.
Councillor Price?
Thank you. So I wonder if at this stage we could have an update on the membership of the Surface Water Strategy and when they are likely to be meeting for the first time.
Okay, through the chairs. So my understanding is when I wrote the agenda, 2 places had been confirmed. At the time of, or as of yesterday, I'm aware that 3 are outstanding. That's all I have at this stage. So there, again, the actual creation of the group is being established by a policy group, and they are intending to chase up the parties that are outstanding.
And supplementary, but on a different matter, the ecologist, is the intention of the ecologist to train our staff, or what's that role?
No, so that it relates to actually giving us some advice on some internal processes and procedures that we're developing. And the idea is not necessarily to train our staff, but to provide us with a tool which our staff can use. The alternative is that we would have to have trained ecologists for everything, and there's a possibility, taking this approach, that we can at least do a course cut through at the start to save money.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 5.8, drinking water. We have this testing lab being audited. How often is this being done, and do you have based on the previous audit, do we always get a positive result?
Yeah, so we're required to, the lab is required to pass an IONS audit, and that's an annual audit. Typically, we've never failed an audit as such, but it is very routine for there to be corrective actions. And they will identify very small things. And to give you an idea of the scale of a typical corrective action, it might be that a template that we use has the wrong heading on it, or it maybe have a misleading heading, and we would have to adjust that accordingly. I'm not aware, I've only been overseeing the lab for a few years now, but I'm not aware of anything major where they simply weren't going to give us our accreditation, recognition, so I say.
Thank you.
The last paragraph in 5.11 about the Mark Governance Group, they held 2 meetings on Tuesday and 1 last night in Ashburton to outline their progress and what they intend to do. Councillor Everly?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, the $10 million program, and some of it's going to be funded from rates. Have we seen that before?
I don't think it is definite yet. It's obvious the money's going to come from somewhere. So, I mean, they'll bring a proposal, way I understand it, to ECAN or the District Council. It'll be, way I read it, it'll be mainly funded by the beneficiaries. But how they define the beneficiaries, that's going to be the big question. Because, I mean, we all could be beneficiaries. So we'll be interested to see what they do. Mr. Guthrie?
Yeah, through the chair, they have talked at the various meetings about rating as a possible funding source, and it hasn't been any surprise about that. my understanding of the most recent meeting I went to, they appear to be leaning towards an ECAN funding rate. So, yeah, hence it hasn't reached this council at this point. I don't know if it's reached ECAN for any discussions.
Madam Mayor.
Mr Chairman, I also wanted to provide an update since council met on the 16th of April, and I'm now council's representative as the trustee. I've spoken to Peter Lowe in regards to the minor modifications we discussed on the day, and my understanding is the officers are preparing a summary of those and sending them on to him, and they've been sent today. Is that right, Philippa, today? Thank you.
No further questions? Roding. Thank you, Andy and Shamal. Hernando. Welcome, Hernando. Stepped into Mr. Firth's shoes. 5.12.1, maintenance and renew contracts. Quite a list there. How are they all going to be completed, those that have to be completed by 18-19 going to be done before wet weather sits in, or?
Yeah, the program is on target at the moment. Even with those wet days we have, we're still on target. And just the only update I have is for the LED streetlight replacement program. As of yesterday, we are already 99%. Only 24 lights needs to be replaced. These are 20 in Rakaya and 4 in Ashburton.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you. Questions through you to Hernando. Looking at the projects, I see there's a performance bond for one contract and full retention for another one. Is that common practice to have a performance bond?
Yes, every contract has a performance bond, and at the moment we require cash bond because it's easier for us to hold the cash rather than bonds. If there will be defects in the work, we find it difficult to get bonds to finance the repairs. That's why all contracts now will require cash bonds so that we can easily tap onto those funds when we're required to fix things.
Right, and supplementary to that sounds great. I'm pleased to hear that. With project C636, 44 defective sites, is the performance bond sufficient value to be an incentive for them to come back and repair all 44 sites?
Higgins is now in the process of repairing. They're actually in Rakaya at the moment doing things, but we're still holding on to the cash bond. So probably as a big company, they have a reputation to defend themselves. That's why they're coming back. Even if we have that cash bond, they're bound to come back and repair.
Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just on LED lights, and we at the Rural Roading Reference Group, we talked about LED lights. In the country areas, there's lights on some corners to identify that you've got a corner coming up, which is good. But they will not be made LEDs. They'll remain as they are.
Yes.
But all towns in the townships will get LED.
Yes.
So it's 100% the towns and none in the rural.
Yes, that's it.
Then I do have another question. It's just on, was in the Mayor's comment in the paper the other day about seal widening on the Chertsey Kyle Road. The comment was that it's going to be widened. I haven't seen it anywhere in any programs. Is it a new thing, or where did it come from? Either or.
So that those comments were provided to me with the assistance of the comms team, perhaps. And I thought
Most likely from the roading team, yes. Do you know about that, Hernando, or did it come from Brian?
Chertsey Kyle Road. Chertsey Kyle Road.
Chertsey Kyle Road, do you know?
No, I have
Not?
no idea.
Okay.
But we can provide the information if necessary.
But the information would have come from Brian Firth. Yep. We can confirm that for you anyway.
Or the other, because it's never been in a work program. And not an engineer, but it doesn't look as though it needs widening either.
Okay, well, we'll look into that and get back to you.
Councillor Malcolm?
Yeah, just to, very bad edge break on that road and a lot of tree root damage from blue gums along a significant part of it at the start from Chertsey heading towards Pendarvis. Different program like
Councillor Reveley?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I see there's LED lights upgrade. Where would I find the remainder of Tynwald's southeast of Tynwald? There's quite a section there that haven't got any lights. Where would I find that program?
We have a map of all the LED lights that have been replaced. We can provide this map to you.
Thank you. So is it on the website or I need to come?
I can provide it to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Brahms?
Just a question. Might be a simple answer, I don't know, but we talked about the LED in rural. It's not been used there. Is there a reason for that? That we don't use them on the corners? Is there a reason that we don't use LEDs in rural places?
The LED lights in the rural area, the lights in the rural area are intended to highlight the intersections. They're not actually there to light the intersections, but to highlight intersections to motorists, because there are no pedestrians walking through there, so there's really no need to have a bright light. But motorists would be, it will be known to the motorists that there's an intersection if there are lights. That's why we only use SON lights.
Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. We're just moving into the winter period again, and tree shading becomes a consideration. How are we going with all the people we notified that they needed to trim their roadside trees? Do you know where we're at with that?
We have actually sent out letters to two parties. One, those parties that have actually cut their trees, we sent them thank you letters for doing so. And then the second parties are those that have not actually cut their trees. We have sent them letters telling them that we will be on top of this, and if they don't cut it, we will have our contractors cut it for them at their cost.
Supplementary, what timeline are they on?
I'm not aware of the timeline at the moment.
Through the chair, I believe it's about 6 weeks or 8 weeks that we're giving them.
Councillor Lovett?
I'm just going to ask about the rural lighting on intersections. There's a real dangerous one way at the top of Green Street, way up the very top at that intersection. I can't think of what the road is up the top. There's a big green sign on the other side of the road, and if it's dark and wet, we're up there about a month or two ago, and it is a real bad intersection, and it's been pointed out by a few people. It needs to be lit.
Normally, EA Network is the one that recommends the installation of lights on intersections. At the moment, we are in the process of putting lights on intersections where they are working at. So probably if EA Network will be working on that intersection in the future, we will be putting the lights. But we don't intentionally put the lights. It's only based on EA's program at the moment. But we can recommend it to EA Network.
Councillor Reveley?
Yeah, no, you're talking about Thompson's Track. The power wires are miles away from that, and it's Thompson's Track, so always in the country areas, you country girls should be aware of there's always problems. So go from there. I just say the staff have done an exceptional job. We've got a whole lot of trees removed from properties I thought they'd never get removed, so there's been some really good work done. To be the first time I've ever seen that. I don't find many trees anywhere that haven't been trimmed and kept back, so from all the complaints we've had, I'd have to say thank you.
Just to finalise this, seeing we're live stream, it's good to hear that all our programs this year will be finished on time, especially those that have been waiting on Isleworth Road to be done. Because every month at Hines I'm continually asked, when is it going to be done? So they can take note that it will be done.
Mr. Chairman, I do have my light on that.
Sorry.
It's okay, thank you. So just two questions, please. Firstly, Hernando, thank you for your explanations. In regards to the two letters that went out, one being a thank you and another being we'll cut your trees for you, I'm just seeking confirmation that council properties that had trees all received thank yous and not the other letter.
Yeah, so we have council properties as well who've had to cut down trees. Hernando?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because Jeremy was the one who sends out the letters.
Yes.
So I'm not privy to who he sent the letters to.
But we certainly we treated like just like all other property owners.
Absolutely, and hopefully we respond in the cutting of our trees. But I have a second question. Right at the start of your presentation, you talked about the 24 LED lights to be replaced. The written report says everything is due to be replaced by the end of April, and I'm wondering, the 24, are they the last of the program, or was there a problem?
That's the last of the program as of yesterday. So probably it's less than 24 today.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. Just moving forward to footpaths, if that's all right.
Yeah, just going to say, is there nothing further on unsubsidised roading? Righto, footpaths.
I just see a note there about the advantages and disadvantages of the footpath policy. And there's a reference to Paxton vehicles. My understanding, or my recollection at the time that that trial was approved, was that Paxton vehicles were never going to be on footpaths. They were going to access the footpath to get to a letterbox, but they weren't supposed to be going on footpaths themselves. Has that changed?
My recollection was that while it may not have been part of the initial trial, there was an approach by New Zealand Post asking for permission to travel along our footpaths, and I thought that was given, but I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, through the chair, they don't commonly use the footpath, but where they have to and where they're required to, they've asked permission to do so, and we have granted them that permission.
No further questions on footpath contracts, upcoming tenders. See the Relief Sewer Ashburton River crossing out for tender, which has taken a long time because it's such a major project.
Big relief.
No comments, vandalism? Methven Community Board? Councillor McMillan. Thank you, Fernando.
Nothing really to report except just that Hamish Gilpin was recognised at the Community Boards conference at the beginning of the month, and he's in his fourth term at the Community Board, so it was nice to see that he got recognised for his community.
519, reports from the Joint Roading Reference Group. Councillor Brown.
Just, we did discuss the RDR bridges at the group, and they were due for replacement, but waiting for a shutdown of the RDR, which is going to be another 18 months away, I think, before it's due for a shutdown. The people out there who have the heavy vehicles have been asking for probably a couple of years now, can they use those bridges, and because it's costing them time, money to go round because they can't go over the moment because they can't take the heavy vehicles. A suggestion back probably a year ago now was to make them one lane, one lane, and with a slower speed restriction on, so they could go over safely. But it was dismissed for the fact that the bridges were going to be replaced and it was going to be expedited, so we didn't need to. Now that they're going to be 18 months away before they get replaced, plus installation on top of that, should we not be back looking at making them one lane so we can get those heavies over those bridges for efficiencies?
We can certainly look into that and reconsider that, given this delay, yes, and report back to you.
There is only 3 bridges, it's not all of them, it's the 3 bridges.
Just the 3.
And for a short period of time until they are fully replaced.
Yep,
But
okay.
great if you could look into it.
All right.
It's worth noting that both Roading Reference Group, Jeremy Lambert, one of our young engineers in the roading department, gave a PowerPoint demonstration on how our department works, how they interact with the contractors, with the grading, the repairs. Excellent, really excellent. So Mr. McCann's hoping to get Jeremy to be able to come and give a brief overview of what he did to the full council, because those of us that were at the Roading Reference Group found it of great value.
Yes, we've programmed that in for the next service delivery meeting on the 13th of June. And that is a good visual presentation on how all the layers on our GIS mapping now has current works, future works, even looking 2 years ahead. So I think it was well received, and it's worth sharing with the Service Delivery Committee next meeting.
Yeah, Jeff Rhodes has actually left that department and Jeremy has gone up a run. So, Councillor Malcolm?
Is there any progress with regards to safety on Ronan Road Bridge?
Yes, there is. There certainly is. The rails have been complete. I think it is mentioned in the...
512.4.
Yep.
Are we looking at any alterations or just putting the pipe work back in?
Yes, we are looking at, and perhaps Ananda could add to this, we are looking at what we can do with the concrete plinths on the side, and what work we can do to try and prevent the wheels of the trucks from lifting. Yes.
Yes.
Ananda, is that correct?
Yeah, we are actually investigating how to replace the existing railings and what would be the safest method that would be replaced. So we are in that process at the moment.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is probably a question for Neil. Now that it's autumn and then we just had a slight rain and there's so much flooding all around town, is there any plan to schedule the street cleaning before it gets, we get lots of rain? Yeah, because there's so many flooding lately with that just slight rain.
Yes.
A couple of days ago.
Yeah, the worst factor with all this was all the leaves that fell just in the week preceding the heavy rainfall. So, we can only respond as quickly as we can, and unfortunately we didn't get time to remove those leaves before the rainfall came. So, however, as soon as the rain did come, Fulton Hogan go to our hotspots, and we go straight to the areas that we typically have the worst flooding, and they clean those out as quickly as possible.
Of course, what compounds it, it's leaf fall time, and that strong southerly was very strong, and it actually brought a lot of leaves down with the rain. So it was not as if they were there before, they arrived with the rain.
It's just that I have noticed that the new seal or new footpath in that roundabout with Harrison Street and Walnut Ave, that corner, that's always get flooded, and even just a slight rain. I don't know if it's the way it's been resealed, I don't know. Yeah, but that's
yeah, that is certainly one of the areas that we will be looking at and doing some more investigations, because it has highlighted a few real bad spots that we've sort of identified, and we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you... Well, it sounds a bit early to me. No further business? 3 o'clock, it must be a bit of a record. If not, thank you for your attendance. I'll declare the meeting closed and everybody's invited to have a cup of tea.